Coming up next on All About Android, it's me, Jason Howell. We got Ron Richards, WinTwit Dow, and we got a lot of news, decent amount of hardware to talk about. Former Google app founder pulls no punches in a very scathing Medium post that maybe you've heard of, but you definitely want to read, all about Google. Huawei watch will wear its own earbuds. I tried to find a word that was earbuds with a W to complete that, but I couldn't figure it out. So that's all you get. OnePlus 11 concept brings the bling with some really flashy blue LEDs on the back. Twitter Blue, speaking of blue, required for SMS 2-factor authentication going forward. Why is that? We talk about it. Some cool animated photos in Google Photos that Win shares with us. And we have a whole lot of your feedback and a whole lot more coming up next on All About Android.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is All About Android, episode 618, recorded Tuesday, February 21st, 2023. Huawei Watch hides the buds. This episode of All About Android is brought to you by HPE GreenLake, orchestrated by the experts at CDW, who can help you consolidate and manage all your data in one flexible edge-to-cloud platform to scale and innovate. Learn more at cdw.com/HPE. And by 8 Sleep. Good sleep is the ultimate game changer, and the pod cover is the ultimate sleep machine. Go to 8sleep.com/twit to check out the pod cover and save $150 at checkout. 8 Sleep currently ships within the USA, Canada, the UK, and select countries in the EU and Australia. Hello and welcome to All About Android. This is your weekly source for the latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful. On this show, we talk about nothing but Android. I'm Jason.
And I'm Ron Richards.
And I'm WinTwit Dow.
I only say that because I do happen to have here Empire Strikes Back, the Laserdisc, and we're definitely not going to talk about this on tonight's show.
Well, because here's the thing. On this show that you're either watching on the live stream or on YouTube or listening on your podcast, we just talk about Android. This is all about Android.
Yeah.
But if you show up when we record this live around 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, for about 3 hours, we talk about other things, such as one-hit wonders, laser discs, modem commands.
That guy who starred in American Werewolf in London, apparently he was also a singer.
Yeah, who knew?
Did you know that? You
Fun
would
facts.
right now if you were with us 20 minutes ago.
Yep.
Twit.tv/live.
Missing out.
All right. And actually, I should also mention Club Twit is where you can get that conversation after the fact, because we're going to publish it on the Twit Plus podcast feed. So there you go. We're doing this now? Twit.tv/Club Twit. That's all I'm going to say. Otherwise, it's going to get removed from this episode because Club Twit subscribers also don't get ads about Club Twit. So I'm just going to stop. And you all got that. That wasn't an ad. It was just a funny little bit. Okay? All right. Don't complain to me.
And it was free.
I love you. Yes. You didn't have to pay for it. I mean, you had to pay for Club Twit. Anyways, we should start this show because we got a lot of Android to talk about.
We got a lot of Android.
And this top news story, it's a doozy. So, Burke, at this point, we've given you an hour's worth of content. Let's dive in.
Well, here on Android News, we have a mission, we have urgency, and I may or may not have delusions of exceptionalism.
Or grandeur. Or grandeur.
What on earth is Burke talking about? Most of the time we don't know, but tonight we actually do. Because if you have been watching any of our shows, particularly like This Week in Google and This Week in Tech, this last week, you know that there was a former employee of Google named Praveen Seshadri. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Former employee, founder of AppSheet, which was a company that was acquired by Google Cloud in 2020. And apparently he doesn't work at Google anymore. In fact, if they got acquired in 2020 and he had, I'm guessing, a 3-year commitment to stay with the company, it kind of sounds by the tone of this Medium post that he waited until like the day that was up and then said, peace out, I quit. And then wrote a Medium article about all the reasons and all the things that are happening wrong at Google behind the scenes. And I don't doubt his perspective at all. You know, he obviously has a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings about this. The article is called "The Maze is in the Mouse," and really excellent read. It doesn't take too long to get through the Medium article itself, but it has a lot of really choice nuggets in it. And I think why it relates to what we talk about with Android. Well, yeah, we're going to get into that because I know that we have thoughts about like the Android team and how that relates to what he's talking about here. But we do talk a lot about eroding trust in the brand. We talk a lot about, you know, this kind of inability of Google to commit to certain products of its catalog, if not a lot of them. And Praveen really lays out a lot of, you know, the kind of the rationale or the reasons that he sees behind those. He says, like mice, they are trapped in a maze of approvals, launch processes, legal reviews, performance reviews, executive reviews, documents, meetings, bug reports, triage, OKRs, H1 plans, followed by H2 plans, all hands summits, inevitable reorgs, which I'll just stop and say, like, most companies have a lot of that stuff, right? But sounds like Google has a lot of that stuff. It says the mice are regularly fed their cheese, aka promotions, bonuses, fancy food, fancier perks. Despite many wanting to experience personal satisfaction and impact from their work, the system trains them to quell these inappropriate desires and learn what it actually means to be googly. Just don't rock the boat. Interesting read. Again, one person's perspective. Maybe he has, you know, maybe he's got a bone to pick, you know, or you know what I mean? Like, we don't know what happened during his time at Google necessarily, except for what he's written out here. But we were chatting about it in Slack, and when you and Flo were talking a lot about kind of the developer side as pertains to Android and how, and I thought this was really interesting, how Android in some ways is kind of shielded from this sort of thing. Do you believe that the Android group is different from what Praveen is talking about here?
I doubt that they're totally insulated from it, because they probably, you know, there's going to be someone higher at any big company. And again, I'm speaking from an experience that is not Google, but feels very familiar. Like a lot of things that you know is talked about by Praveen and that we talk about are very familiar to me. And yeah, like I don't think they're totally isolated, but I think what's really interesting is that even like thinking back even to like Chet Haas's book, you know, we had Chet Haas on back before the holidays. And even from the start, it has seemed like that the history of the Android team has been very self-driven. They have, you know, ideals, they have goals, they have this open software platform that they wanted to make. And like a lot of people that were on it were very passionate about what they were doing, about creating an open mobile platform, and that they refused to compromise on certain things that they saw as maybe being, trying to figure a graceful way of saying this, serving more the interest from a more corporate-y level rather than the spirit of an open source platform. And it sounded like they happened to just get a group of people that were tenacious enough to maintain that. And if you read Chet Haas' book, which you should, they even altered the way that Google hired, like the Google hiring process. And so it feels like ever since Android started, you know, they've had a goal in mind. And I think that goes to, you know, what kind of like the four things that Brick hinted at, that Praveen says that are big problems with the company in terms of like no mission, no urgencies, delusions of exceptionalism and mismanagement. I feel like a lot of those things were kind of addressed, or just part the good ways that you know, I mean, there's a lot of, you know, self-deprecatingness. There was a lot of kind of like self-examination. There was urgency, and there was a commitment to this project. And that really feels like, especially reading Chet's book and talking to a lot of the engineers who, by the way, are still there. A lot of the people who are OG Android engineers that help create the system are still there, which is absolutely astounding in the tech world. Like, that's insane. Like Roman Key, Diane Hackborn, all hail Diane, like Dan Sandler, all these like names that I hear all the time in my Android dev life and that I see every year at Google I/O. They've been there from the beginning.
Yeah,
And they're still
that's really
there.
impressive. That is really pretty remarkable. I have
nuts.
to
Not
agree.
to,
That is
but
nuts.
and also
Yeah.
it is nuts, but also not to again, but just to play the devil's advocate of it. With that brings not complacency or stoicism, but brings a lot of legacy and a lot of fundamental, kind of things getting cemented in. Like I've talked to and I've worked in and I've been around other environments where you've had what really is considered lifers, right? Like people who have been with a company for so long that the perspective sometimes shifts and they, they've already tried everything. They'll be the first to shoot down new ideas, or sometimes gatekeeping occurs, like like so many different things can come of that. And when I think it's remarkable and it's so respectable and it's so like, there's some legendary folks who deserve a massive amount of respect. But in terms of the stew or the soup that makes an organization that is all the ingredients are people, that's not always a good thing.
No, I 120%, 1000% agree with you, Ron, that also plays into tech people tend to move around a lot. I 120% agree with you. And I've met people like that. And I think that there's some kind of magic sauce with Android that these engineers keep pushing. And kind of another thing that I think Ron in his write-up called out is also like the fact that Android feels stable and they have a lot of responsibility, right? They release an OS every year. They have, like the way that they have this process of yearly, and even quarterly, like software releases, and they do it in an orderly manner. They take feedback. It's like they're a machine that works. I don't even know how else to describe it. They're a software machine that works, that cranks out releases every year. And I know that it doesn't seem like a big deal. That seems like it should be table stakes. But it is insane how uncommon that can be to have people that just know how to release software relatively smoothly. I know it's not always the best. I know that there are bugs. I know that but it's kind of insane. And kind of like going back to what the original point was, is that not everything in Google works like this.
Sure.
And I don't know. I as a developer, getting to see these people every year, getting to hear and witness the feedback loop that is the users, the developers talking to the Android team, and then having things come out of it and having continual improvements and having us complain at them and then having them, like iterate on the platform and try to make things better. That is really special and very, very interesting to me and very fun. And the fact that maybe Android is a little bit of an exception in the mass that is Google kind of plays to that. There's plenty of stuff that I know I've complained about. A lot of it is stuff that is kind of like, more ancillary, like Google Play services, Google Play Store, all the stories we've had of like, developers getting their apps pulled for no reason for months. And with like kind of those kind of stories, that in my very biased view of Google with Android, I think you can kind of tell which parts, are less under the purview of the direct Android team and which are more kind of like more under the influence of the broader organization. So I'm biased, but I kind of feel like in the reality of the software release and the relationship that I know developers have with the Android team, this fits. This makes sense to me. So,
yeah. And I don't doubt that this was not his experience, right? I think Praveen had, and he says in the article, they worked at Microsoft. It wasn't his first go around with a monolithic, huge kind of corporation. This could very much be his experience. Doesn't mean it's every Googler's experience, right? Yeah. Like opinions are that they are opinions. There could be, there could be another, there could be other folks like it's funny because, obviously like I was laughing because like, of course, Ron wrote this article, right? Of course, we love Ron Amadio, but like he is like, this was like, I was like, oh, of course he's covering this. And that's what we're referencing and like putting in his own personal kind of opinion and snark to it because that it is just that there's that opinion. I'm sure you could go to Mountain View and pull 5 random Googlers and get 5 different opinions of Praveen's position, kind of thoughts around the company, right? Like, because the company is that big and so many people work on so many different things and everybody has a different perspective, right? So I think there's a lot of points in here that as a user and as an, whatever we are, pundit, analysts, whatever we are, of the company critic, the math seemed to work on a lot of some of it, but I don't know. We're not inside of it either, right? So you can't take one person's experience after 3 years at a company of literally thousands and say this is exactly what it is
for everyone. Yeah. I agree. There I think you take something like this with a grain of salt because it is a perspective. That's exactly what it is. It's on Medium after all. You know what I mean? It's one person's perspective about their experience. I'm sure it's representative of a lot of people's experience. I'm sure he isn't out on an island alone, but not everybody is on that island with him as well. I thought it was really interesting how he mentioned that, because he was only his company was only acquired in 2020. And he said after 2 years, he had worked there longer than half the company. And I don't know if he was just like throwing that out. I was like, I practically worked there longer than half the company, or if that was true. And if so, how he knew that. But his point was essentially like, there's so many people going in and out of Google that when they come in, instead of it being an environment where it's like, okay, new perspective, how can we look at things differently? It was always like, this is how we do it at Google. This is the Google way. And I think when you are a company of that size, how do you avoid that from happening, right? Like at a certain point, you're just so massive and so huge that ship, as the illusion is always the ship is hard to turn. And does the environment support new perspectives, or does it put you in a box and say, well, you're a Googler now, and this is how we do it at Google? And is that how we do it at Google? Is that serving the company at the end of the day? And that really resonated for me. I could absolutely see that as being a real challenge for Google. It's probably also a real challenge for any other company Google's size. But we as consumers see the impact of things like that when we see all these products come out that, there is no devotion to the product because the people who are making the product, they end up getting their kudos. They end up moving to a different, place in the company, and that's no longer their baby. It's somebody else's baby who doesn't care about that baby nearly as much as they did. And then it goes away. RIP Stadia or whatever, random service you want to throw into that mix. Just go to Killed by Google and you'll see tons of them. So it does. So whether the Android team is actually like, if this is indicative of the Android team or not, which it sounds like it's probably not, those other experiences do have an impact on users of Android in other ways. And I think the erosion of trust is just that's a really big challenge for Google.
So I have to say a lot of this resonates for me, and I don't want to keep, holding up the show on this, but there were parts of this that really reminded me of when my old company Trello got acquired by Atlassian. Mm-hmm. So it is hard. And for a long time, we as Trello, because of the terms of the acquisition, we were kind of like left alone for a couple of years. So in many ways, we felt for a couple of years that we were just this weird little company inside of Atlassian, and we functioned quite differently than them. And, because we were very remote, we were like a remote, like first company, and like Atlassian had actually were not at the time. And I think, and it's weird because, some of the stuff that you talked about, Jason, does resonate with me. Like kind of there was a certain Trello-iness. There's a certain like perspective and like ideals that we made the product with that we tried to hold on to as long as possible. But eventually when you become part of a big company, they're not going to leave you alone forever.
No, not forever. And they might say that they will. They might say that they will.
Might say that they will.
Inevitably it happens, right?
Right. Unless you're printing, unless you're literally a goose that's laying golden eggs like by the 3 dozen every day. Yeah. That does not deserve to be touched. You're going to be brought in. And that's when all those dang acronyms like OKRs and all this kind of metric, it really starts to warp incentives, and it really starts to warp like what the original like spirit and maybe direction of the product was, because they bought a thing. They need to make money from the thing. And if they have a whole bunch of other things, it kind of makes sense. Like just like Google, just like any other big company with multiple products, they kind of want synergy. They want to create avenues to cross-sell. They want to create new opportunities to kind of like maybe multiply the product that they have using all of, they want to use all the tools in the toolbox to make, to make stockholders happy. And that's not always a bad thing. I'm not trying to like demonize capitalism by any means, but that and so you start feeling decisions that might make a lot of sense for the company as a whole, that might make sense on average as a positive for all the products, but starts to kind of erode the trust that maybe a user of one of those products had. And they start making decisions that maybe takes away from that original idea and that original experience. And I mean, that's been my experience. And like the fact that, they're pointing out Android still holding on is kind of amazing. But I don't know, as another person who got acquired and has been at a big company, I would say that I would not call this man a liar for his experience, or nor do I feel that
Agreed.
It's uncommon. So anyway, yep.
No, and I think you're totally right, and because this was his experience, But I just think that also Burke said it in our little Slack chat behind the scenes. Google is a company that is made up of many other companies, right? And there's so much friction, and there's so much, there's so much, personalities involved and things like that. That it's funny because having worked at, I've been lucky enough or crazy enough to work at startups of, less than 10 people, less than 20 people, like that sort of thing, when you can directly point to the strategy originating from a single person in some cases, right?
Yeah.
To being a soldier of one of hundreds of thousands of people for a mega corporation and stuff like that, and everything in between. And the dynamics of every organization is so complex and so unique and so wild to think that, you could have two people working at the same company have completely different kind of takes. And that's what what makes this all so fascinating, I think, and interesting to analyze. And we're so, we're so on the outskirts that we just kind of take whatever we can get. So I can't imagine Google was happy with this, though. So
no, I can't imagine that either. But what are they going to do? Fire him? I don't know. Yeah. He's out the door. That's what he was saying when he wrote that Medium article. What are you going to do? Fire me? Anyways, we'll see what he does next. Ron, you got the ad.
Yes, because this episode of All About Android is brought to you by HPE GreenLake, orchestrated by the experts at CDW. The people at CDW understand that your organization needs simple management over its big data. But with workloads remaining on-prem due to legacy systems, it can feel challenging to organize and optimize your data. But that's where CDW can help your organization by consolidating and managing all your data in one flexible, unified experience with the HPE GreenLake Edge-to-Cloud platform. The experience you'll get with HPE GreenLake is unique because no matter where your data or applications live, you can free up energy and resources with automated processes and streamlined management. And we can all use a little more streamlined things, right? Lord knows I could. Not only that, HPE GreenLake creates a seamless cloud experience among multiple data environments thanks to the as-a-service model that meets your remote workforce at the edge. And with unrivaled scalability, you'll see an instant increase in capacity, allowing for greater flexibility and accelerated business growth so your team can tackle bigger priorities like innovation. When it comes to streamlined management, HPE makes data transformation possible. CDW makes it powerful. Learn more at cdw.com/HPE, and we thank them for their support of this episode and for sponsoring us and for making management streamlined. We appreciate it. Thanks, HPE and CDW.
Thank you. All right, we got a jam-packed hardware block coming up right now.
All right. Well, we got a lot of hardware, so let's dive right into it. Our good friends at Huawei actually are working on a new wearable. And
Huawei working on a wearable?
Huawei working on a wearable. But I do got to admit that, we've talked a lot about sameness and seeing the same thing over and over again and kind of the complacency in the space. I was excited to see that Huawei is working on something that I don't think we've seen before. They're called Watch Buds. And it's a smartwatch with earbuds that dock inside the watch itself. So the display hinges up to reveal earbuds underneath. So if you ever wanted to think of where is the most compact place I can store my earbuds? Oh, my watch. Now, here's your answer. Now you're probably doing the mental math now. Earbuds, watch, You're doing the size of earbuds, how they look. Yes, that means the watch is massive.
Yeah.
It is a big watch. It's a chonker. It's got more volume than even the Apple Watch Ultra because it's got to store those earbuds inside of it.
Yeah.
It's got a 410 milliamp battery to run the watch and charge the earbuds, which is just crazy. I love this. Huawei claims it gets a 3-day battery life. GPS, 24/7 heart rate monitor, sleep tracking. But here's the catch: no water resistance whatsoever because it has a hinge that opens up to little charging ports. For
that's unfortunate because a watch is on your wrist and you got to do things like, wash your hands. I mean,
or like go out in the rain.
Like,
Right.
I mean,
yeah. So hopefully you live in Palm Springs.
Yes.
And so, and the earbuds themselves have 30 milliamp batteries. They give you 4 hours regular operation, 3 hours with noise cancellation. So this is crazy, but good on you, Huawei, for trying to come up with something different. I like it.
Yeah, they're up for pre-order. So this is not like a, maybe someday we'll do it. Isn't this weird? This sucker is up for pre-order in Europe, 449 pounds. Or about $542 US converted.
Wow, the buds themselves are pretty junky too. Look at that. They're like
well, yeah, they're a little kind of like bullet size earbuds.
Square.
oh,
So weird looking.
Yeah.
So
and
weird
apparently, the clip that holds them in may scratch the earbuds, and that's just part of regular use. I think they said that.
Really?
So,
Oh, man.
It's a
yeah,
feature.
it's somewhere in there. Like, oh, by the way, don't worry. That's a feature, not a bug.
That's how you know they're yours. Your earbuds has that one little scratch that looks like a J.
It's like bullet
right
forensics, just like
right. Which is fitting because they do look like little bullets that you put in your ears. So bizarre. I'd never in my life considered, wow, I want some earbuds to store inside of my watch. But hey, I'm not making technology products, and Huawei is. So
Huawei's way out there with their
wearables.
Huawei way out there
There
with
we
their
go.
watch.
With their watch buds. They're so cute, those watch buds.
It's like someone got drunk, watched a James Bond movie, and then like, you know what? I have an idea. Like, no,
Whoa.
hear me out.
I know what we can do with our watch. What, you can shoot what do they call those wires so that you can go up to like the top of a building? I don't know those things.
Grappling hook.
Yeah.
Grappling hook. There we
hooks,
go.
yeah.
Thank you.
Guapwing. A guapwing.
You can shoot out a grappling hook from your watch? No.
Huawei grappling.
Earbuds.
Oh, and
how do you get 3 days of battery life out of a watch that like most of its innards are taken up by storage of earbuds and not more battery? I don't understand. This doesn't make any sense to me.
I love it because this defies all logic of what normal things should be.
Yeah.
Right?
All
Like,
logic, I think you mean.
Logic, right? Yes, thank you, Burke. All logic. Like this is fascinating, and this is like I'm tempted. I'll be honest with you, I'm tempted. Yeah.
Hey man, you miss all the shots you don't take. So
Yeah, that's
exactly.
true.
Yep.
oh goodness. Okay. Well, in terms of innovation, we got another leaky peaky for you because we talked about the Oppo. N2. Sorry, I had so many acronyms. We talked about the Oppo Find N2 Flip last week. And so if you didn't quite get enough like flippables, are we calling them flippables or flip?
Sure.
Like
Go with
clamshell. Here we go. Clamshell foldables. If you did not get enough clamshell foldables, well, Motorola might be coming up with, their 3rd gen Motorola Razr. And so something about the, Oppo Find, the Oppo the Oppo Find N2 Flip that we talked about was the fact that its outer screen is pretty interesting, especially since it is so comparable to the Z Fold 4, which has the 1.9 inch, horizontal outer screen. Well, the Find N2 Flip has a vertical 3.6 inch screen. Well, given all that, Motorola is like, hold my beer. And it, if these kind of leaks from, Mr. Ev Leaks, Evan Blass are correct, the 3rd generation of the Motorola Razr will be nothing but outer screen. So it looks like from these renders, which by the way are really rough. So obviously huge grain of salt to be taken with this, but it looks like it could be possible that the Motorola Razr is just going to keep, making the real estate that it's outer screen, which is already kind of sizable enough and actually is fairly fully functional, whereas kind of some of our other clamshell foldables tend to just limit the outer screen content to a bunch of widgets. Motorola has been trying to make it a little bit more of a fully functional screen to help them in that. Yeah, the whole half of the phone is an outer screen, even having cutouts for the camera, it looks like from these renders. So, I mean, and it even looks like, these are really rough, but, to kind of facilitate this much real estate, maybe they'll have like navigation buttons even for the front screen to make it a little more like very independent and kind of, again, more fully functional. Who knows? Still kind of a bit of a leaky peaky, some rough renders. That's real rough. So I definitely, unless you have like some blood pressure issues, take this with a big grain of salt. But it would be really cool, I think, to see, how we could push this form factor. I don't know. What do you think? Like a whole half of a screen?
I love it. I think why not make the whole screen, the whole front, the screen, like we've seen foldables that have the screen, Jason, haven't we seen like the foldables where like the screen is on the outside and the inside? And like I feel like we've seen a whole bunch of different permutations, but they've all been in the either the conceptual or, prototype or examples or like things like that. But to see, somebody taking a stab at making a, mass produced phone that has more screen real estate for display, I love it. I think it's cool. So.
Yeah. I think it makes sense. I think if Samsung could do this, I think they would, but they can't, obviously. Only Motorola can. Right. You hear that, Samsung? Yeah, Motorola can do something you can't do. What do you think about that? Samsung. Why wouldn't Samsung? Oh, yes, Samsung. Thank you for reminding me. I have the Ultra, by the way. Got it
all
from
those
Leo.
Holes.
Yeah, look at them.
Oh,
do they freak you out, Win?
I'm okay. Just no more. Just no more.
Just no more.
Oh, thanks.
If there was another one right there, it would be too much.
That's so disturbing.
Yeah, and then if you kind of
I feel bad for anybody watching the video show because we're zooming in on the camera section of the Samsung Ultra, and if you have a fear of holes, this is not a. Why are you still watching? So yeah.
And it's not a very sharp picture either.
What's great though
really
is that
grainy.
you can, Jason, did you know you can fold up that panel of cameras and put your earbuds in there?
Oh yeah, no, actually, what it is, Ron, each of these is an earbud
or an earbud. Yeah, they pop out, right?
Take that out. It's your camera lens doubles as an earbud. Anyways, where were we?
Well, we're gonna move on.
Okay.
Because there's been a lot of chatter about OnePlus lately, and we thought we knew what we were going to get with the OnePlus 11, but looks like OnePlus is throwing a curveball. The OnePlus 11 concept with what can only be described as plentiful LED array on the rear of the device. And if you're watching the video show, you can see it, a LED circle around the camera bump and then some squiggly lines coming out from the bottom of it. It almost looks like a Tron phone, to be honest with you.
It does.
Yeah. So very, very cool LED around the camera and around the back of it. And it's, according to OnePlus, it's meant to, quote unquote, show the engineering breakthroughs of the OnePlus 11 concept by highlighting the icy blue pipelines, which run through the entire back of the phone, almost like the OnePlus 11 concept has its own series of blood vessels. And this is going to be revealed next week at Mobile World Congress 2023 in Barcelona with all the hamon. But the question that brings up when you see all these LEDs is that does this mean the OnePlus 11 is making a foray into gaming phone?
That's all it takes. LED
that's
on
all
the
it
back.
takes, just some dramatic lighting. But it's got a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, 120 hertz display, 100-watt charging, or could OnePlus be taking a little dig at their former founder, now head of nothing, Carl Pei, with this design, which fascinating that this comes right hot off the heels of recently Carl Pei took to YouTube to give his opinion of the new OnePlus and threw some shade back at his former company. Do we got a little feud going on here between OnePlus and nothing? Is that what's happening?
I mean, did OnePlus make this specifically to counter nothing? I don't know, but pretty interesting that they're both doing that thing. The Nothing Phone 1 had it with their glyph interface on the back last year, and then now OnePlus has this. There's the Nothing Phone 1. not very many LEDs back there compared to what we're seeing on the OnePlus. So
I mean, it's
maybe
not
an LED
like there's a
war.
bloodstream. It's not like a bloodstream of LEDs in the back of that nothing phone.
Yeah.
I just like the idea that it's a sarcastic like response to the nothing phone. Like, you want LEDs? Sure,
Fine.
here you
We
go.
got LEDs.
LEDs. Yeah,
Ours are blue. Yeah.
Sorry. I don't know if that's the case, but I think that'd be really funny. It was just more like they pre-clap back at like, at nothing, just to be, like,
Just to be petty.
LED.
Yeah.
Sure. We'll make a limited edition release of our phone. See, we can do it too. No big deal.
But it's not like nothing's been sitting back doing nothing though, right, Jason?
Well, no, thank you, Ron. No, you know what they've been doing for the last 6 months? They've been working on Android 13 and finally got their official update. So Android 13 released 6 months ago. Here we are 6 months later, and Nothing Phone 1 is finally getting their update. You may remember, just last week, beta testers could get in on it. Didn't take them long to kind of make it official for everyone else. They committed to 3 years of Android updates, so major OS updates, when they released the Nothing Phone 1 last year. Also, 4 years of security updates. So this would be the first major update. Though 6 months later, I just kind of feel like that's a little bit long, but apparently I forgot that Carl Pei back in August, and I do think that we talked about this on the show.
Yep.
Replied to a fan on Twitter who was asking about the Android 13 update, because Android 13, I think at that point, had either come out or was about to or whatever. And Carl Pei said on Twitter, a product is more than just its specs, features, and version numbers. So, kind of hinting, hey, you know what? Just because Android 13 came out doesn't mean you're going to get it immediately. We got a lot more things that we're working on than just this Android release. Which I don't know why I find that surprising, but I do, coming from him. I would envision him embracing the yes, we're going to get you the updates as fast as possible, but apparently not.
Oh, I'm not surprised by that at all. I think that they're given Nothing's whole product market definition around design and their approach, and clearly they're working on things like ear sticks and working on the Nothing Phone 2. Like, they have to prioritize their roadmap the way they prioritize it. So I'm not surprised at all. I'm more surprised that it's February and it's out. Based off of what we saw last month about the when the beta phone came out, and they said it was running a beta version of Android 13, and things like Google Wallet and YouTube might not work, right?
Yeah.
So given where we were in January, it seems like they got it to a release candidate pretty quickly, to be honest.
Catch.
So
Good catch. Yeah, I completely spaced that. That's right. And then speaking of Carl Pei tweets, because apparently he tweets, he's using the bird side a lot. Talking about the good battery life on the Nothing Phone 1, Carl tweeted, big difference now having our own team who previously delivered Oxygen OS together versus an outsourced team who don't really care about the success or failure of our company. So, little clue here. I don't know that I knew this, that a bunch of, the people who were on the original Oxygen OS team at OnePlus are there at Nothing working on their phones. I suppose this is a call out to anyone who's totally upset at the direction that OnePlus has taken with their Color OS influenced version of their skin. Maybe you need to check out Nothing, because that whole team's over there. So if you liked what they were doing for OnePlus while they were there, maybe you'll like what Nothing is doing on their future phones. So I thought that was interesting. I didn't know that.
It is. Carl Pei is like a pepper farmer, y'all. He's just like doling out that spice. He's just like farming up that spice and just handing it out at the farmer's market. My goodness, that is.
He's like, join us. Come with me. Come with me. And they do. When Carl Pei says, come with me, you come with him. Okay, well, let's take a quick break, and then we will get to some app news and a really interesting app tip from J.R. Raphael from Android Intelligence. That's up next. But first, this episode of All About Android is brought to you by 8 Sleep. I'm sleeping right now thinking about 8 Sleep, but I can't sleep right now because I got to actually talk about 8 Sleep, which is easy because 8 Sleep is awesome. Good sleep is the ultimate game changer. The pod cover is the ultimate sleep machine. That's actually what I have at home. It's powering our bed at home. It's amazing. Consistent good sleep can help reduce the likelihood of serious health issues. It can decrease the risk of heart disease. It can lower blood pressure, even reduce the risk of Alzheimer's. And if you've ever struggled to fall asleep, or maybe you wake up in the middle of the night, or you argue with your partner because the thermostat, you can never agree on where to set the thermostat, those types of things. Well, the 8 Sleep pod cover is really perfect for you. It works hard all night long to improve your sleep so you don't have to. And like I said, I have the pod cover at home. Both my wife and I, we have the app on our phones. We can set how cool or how warm we want our side of the bed to be, because I definitely like to sleep warmer than my wife. She likes to sleep cooler. And, I will say for a lot of my life, like I just blame it on being tall, but my limbs get really cold. Like my hands and my feet right now are freezing. My extremities get really cold. And often when I would get into bed, it wasn't warm enough for my already cold feet to warm up. Right. So I'd have to like throw on socks or whatever, or, make sure that my feet were warm before I got into bed somehow, take a shower or whatever it is, because it could be really distracting. It's like, I just want to fall asleep, but my feet are like icicles. With 8 Sleep, I actually don't have that problem. It's awesome because I set my bed and, it's warm by the time I get in. It's almost like I was sleeping in it and I got up and then I came back. When you come back to your bed after you've been sleeping in it, it's nice and warm and you just get back in and you fall right back asleep. It's like that, but when you get into bed the first time. That's my experience anyways. And mind you, it's winter time, so it's warm now. In the summertime, I'm going to be cooling things down, guaranteed. And I'm just really looking forward to that too. Sleep rules. The pod cover fits on any mattress. It allows you to adjust the temperature of your sleeping environment. It provides the optimal temperature that gets you the best night's sleep. Now, the pod cover features dual zone temperature control, like I said, so you and your partner can set your sides of the bed to as cool as 55 degrees Fahrenheit or as hot as 110 degrees Fahrenheit. I like sleeping in warmth, but that's just a little too hot for me. But if that's perfect for you, hey, great. Here's your solution. Based on your biometrics, your environment, your sleep stages even, the pod cover makes temperature adjustments throughout the night that limit wake-ups and increase your percentage of deep sleep, because that's what you're always trying to get, right? That super deep restorative sleep. That's the goal. In addition to its best-in-class temperature regulation, the pod cover has sensors that also track your health, your sleep metrics, without the need to use a wearable device. And we've talked about this on the show many times, right? Like I'm curious and interested about my sleep metrics, but wearing a watch to bed, like I don't want to have to wear something around my wrist. It feels, too constricting. Like I don't know, it just doesn't work for me. You don't have to here. You just lay on your mattress, lay on the pod cover. It does the work for you. Better sleep is the health habit you'll love sticking to night after night. You can wake up fully energized with the pod cover so you can tackle whatever life throws at you. Because let's be honest, everything's a lot easier if you've got a good night's sleep, right? So go to 8sleep.com/twit. You can save $150 at checkout on the pod cover. 8 Sleep currently ships within the USA, Canada, the UK, and select countries in the EU. And also, don't forget Australia. That's 8sleep.com/twit. We thank 8 Sleep for their support, and I thank 8 Sleep for my sleep because I like to sleep. Thank you, 8 Sleep. And that is that. Let's jump into some app news. We actually have some this week. If you are still using the Bird site, that is Twitter, on your Android device, and you use two-factor authentication, you should know something. Elon Musk announced a change to how two-factor authentication for Twitter is going to work starting on March 20th. If you are not a paid user of Twitter Blue, the SMS two-factor authentication goes away for you. Yes, that frowning but kind of smiling guy right there. That pretend surprise with a pretend frown guy. But I mean, we're all smart educated, security-minded people here, right? This is a technology company. We know enough about technology to know that SMS two-factor authentication, while it's better than no protection, is definitely not the best version of two-factor. So I find this really interesting and bizarre that they would, like, if the idea is to get people using, paying for Twitter in order to get something that keeps them more protected, why this? Because the free thing that I do, which is I have, an authentication app, and my Twitter is tied into that instead of SMS, then I can't get, what do they call it? SMS hijacking or whatever. SIM jacking. Yeah. There we go. So I can't get SIM jacked, and someone could, log in anyways. Like, that won't happen on my account because I've got an authentication app that I use. Like, that's still free. Why would you hide the SMS authentication behind the paywall?
Because this is my take on this, but the majority of users are using two-factor with their phone because it's simple and easy and don't know authenticator apps or whatever. And so this is the path of least resistance, and it's already been set up, and they can easily start charging for it, basically.
Yeah.
And SMS costs,
right.
and it costs money to send SMS. So it's kind of... Because we know how tight the pennies are over there, and
right, that's true.
Squeezing blood out of a stone or of a turnip or something, whatever that phrase is.
I'm literally setting up Google Authenticator on my Twitter account as we speak right now, because this is just silly. This is just so...
March 20th. You have until then, so you've got a month.
What I think is so funny is that, like, we keep coming back up on this authenticator conversation that I'm just like, that we spent, like, I feel like we spent a month talking about two-factor authentication this year.
And we were finally done. All the emails had trickled away that like, okay, we've got nothing more to say. And now we've just opened the floodgates again. Next week, it's going to be an entire feedback section about two-factor authentication. You just
listen, while you said that, Jason, I set up Google Authenticator on my phone, and Twitter and everything. So I'm all set up. So it is that easy. So if you are using Twitter and you're using your phone for SMS 2FA, go set it up with Google Authenticator or the Authenticator app of your choice, given that there's so many. If you want to use Authy or whatever else they are, it is so easy to do. I literally just set it up right now while we were talking about this story.
I'm happy that worked for you, Ron, because I tried setting up two-factor on a show and I got locked out of my Google account and almost lost everything. So I do not recommend, if you're podcasting, that you set up two-factor. Wait until after. Write yourself a note, get a little Post-it note, and say 2FA on it, and put it on your display for after the show, Ron. Next time. I'm just saying, you don't want to lose access forever.
It would be a shoe-in for the best of 2023, though, if that unfortunately did happen.
Yeah, that's the the silver lining. We got a clip in the best of. I lost my account, but we got a clip in the best of.
That's so funny.
You got a point there, Jason.
Yeah, okay, I'll do it. Fine. Here we go. I'm going to lock myself out. No, I'm not going to do it. I've done it once. I've learned my lesson. I save those things for after the show. All right. This was really cool when you posted something in our Slack. And while it's not like news that, all the Android blogs are writing about, at least I don't think so. I haven't seen this in my Google Photos, and you did. And it's really kind of crazy.
Yeah. So this is kind of fun. This is like your own Huyen's breaking news on stuff she found in Google Photos. So there we go. So today on Huyen's phone, I was actually in Google Photos, and I actually do enjoy the suggestion, like when Google kind of generates like collages or, hey, like
I love
6
those.
years ago.
Those are great.
Yeah, 6 years ago. Remember before all this happened and you were out like traveling and stuff and hanging out with people and like the world was regular, or, hey, look, here's you 10 years ago. Look how young you looked and awesome. I love all that stuff. So today, I like to just look at them. And there was one that was highlight on me, and then I clicked it, and what I started to notice is that when I opened and played this video that Google generated for me, and we can just go ahead and bring it up just so that the videos, I was noticing very interesting. So it was nominally a video, and at first I was like, it looked as if Google had kind of compiled a bunch of motion photos, with, your Pixels and other kind of Android phones, sometimes you can turn on motion photos where it takes, some small video and it's a motion photo where you can export it or change the frame. No, these weren't motion photos. These are all static photos that I know were just static photos that were taken. And what Google Photos did was to create moving versions of these when I know that these are not motion photos, these are just static photos. And it did stuff like show me opening my eyes, or it's kind of hard to describe, but basically it looks like it's adding motion to static photos.
Yeah.
And I was very intrigued because so basically what it seems like Google Photos is doing is taking, photos that are very similar. So at first I thought maybe, is this a generative AI thing? Because I knew that these were old photos that didn't have, before even Pixels had motion photos. And I was wondering, are they using like computational photography or something to kind of like add motion? Because the motion was very natural. Like in a lot of them, it looks like Google Photos is trying to like, if I'm smiling, it actually animates, it seems like it's animating my mouth. So you can kind of see me like opening my mouth to smile, or it looks like I'm opening my eyes wider. Like the first photo is me and my husband hanging out in my mother-in-law's basement. And I kind of start opening my eyes into a look of surprise. Just like that. I'm like, I know I did not take that picture. I know my husband didn't take that picture. So at first I thought, is this some kind of like, again, computational generative AI thing. And later when I was going through the static photos, I found out what it is. And basically Google Photos is going through, a series of successive photos that are similar. And I actually posted some in our Slack in case that's not clear. But basically, sometimes when you take a photo, you don't just take, one photo, you take like several photos at a time. And so you have a lot of very similar, but slightly different photos. And so what it's doing is interpolating. When it finds two or more of like a very similar photo, it's actually interpolating between the two to create this video. Is
it that, or is it the kind of photos that it's recording video and then picking at the best frame from?
Nope. No. Some of these were really old photos from like 5-6 years ago. Yeah. So
okay, wow.
and I think that, I don't know exactly when I first got motion photos, but I'm pretty darn sure they're not. So yeah, there's one where there was a picture of me and my husband in Copenhagen some years ago, and there's 5 pictures. And I'm kind of sitting in a cafe and I'm kind of like looking around, and he caught like 5 or 6 images. And so what Google Photos did was it took all these and it interpolated it into like this 5-second clip where you can see my pupils kind of like moving around, like watching this, like kind of moving around, across the ceiling. And it's the weirdest thing because, you kind of think of when, sorry, go ahead, Ron.
I'm sorry. The motion photos premiered with the Google Pixel 2. So that's 2017.
Okay, these definitely were not.
Well, no, but motion photos, isn't that the thing where when you take a picture and you're like swiping through, it has that little like clip of movie that leads right up to the clip? That's different than what we're seeing here.
Yeah, that's
well,
like
but motion photo is also what will happen is that I'll look at some photos and it will capture the video of the moment, and I will see the video play, and then it stops on the best still from the photo, whatever it is.
It's like a clip of video, but it's actually stills.
Yeah, exactly. It's both, and it's capturing. There's video on the front end and on the back end of it, and I'm sure it's probably doing both of those. It's probably utilizing both of those things here, right? Like when what you're saying is that the extrapolation between photos where it doesn't have that data, but then on the motion photos, it can extrapolate what is going on beyond the video it got captured because it captured video. So there's a larger sample size to pull from.
Yeah. Scooter X in chat just found a tweet from Google May 18th, 2021. Here, let me see if I can get this to you, Bert.
We'll use machine learning to fill in the gaps.
It's cinematic photos, yeah.
Cinematic, yeah.
I put the link in the doc underneath the story.
I had never seen these before, and this is like the first time I've ever seen them in my Google Photos.
But I think you're right.
By the way, look at the first comment. So first, look at this tweet. It says, when you're trying to get the perfect photo, you usually take the same shot a few times. Google Photos will use machine learning to fill in the gaps between 2 photos to create a vivid, moving image. These cinematic moments will be available across Android and iOS. And the first comment is, ew, that's weird. And Google responds and says, hi there, we value your feedback. Please share feedback here with us.
Oh gosh.
This isn't an opportunity
That's
for
what I
like
said.
customer service, whatever. This is just some random person on the internet that, saying, ew, that's weird. It's funny. We want to fix your problem. My problem is that's weird. But yeah, I mean, you were
have seen
right,
these
right?
before,
Like
though,
it is
yeah.
interpolating. This is exactly what this is. It shows like 2 or 3 images and then it fills in the gaps between them. So yeah, this is it. Thank you, Scooter X.
That's it. Thank
found
you.
it.
But yeah, I mean, I think like I've seen it before where it looked like it was more like just parallaxing the background. But there's a couple
I've
of good
seen
shots
those.
where my husband was like hiding behind me and like I think actually the cinematic photo made it kind of fun because you can actually kind of see, it kind of actually adds something to it. But then there's sometimes where like my eye is closed in like the first one and then it's open in the second one and it interpolates it.
Yeah.
But it interpolates it by pushing my like, not to make it sound like a horror film, but it crossfades between my eye open and my eye closed. It looks like my eye is pushing out from behind my eyelid. So sometimes it's really good. And even I think the smiling interpolation, I still feel like there's some kind of like Google sauce where they interpolate, but they still maybe use like face meshes or something that, does a good interpolation. It's not like an Animorphs thing, like the old Animorphs covers, like when we were kids. But yeah, some of it is still a little uncanny valley. And I saw this and I was like, I've never seen a cinematic photo in Google Photos before. Maybe I've just missed it, but some of them are real good.
I was looking in my photo roll while we've been doing the story, and I can't find any. I have seen the ones where it changes the parallax, where it's just a single image and it changes, like zooms in, and that looks. Usually that turns out really well. But I haven't seen this, which is like it's totally animating it, which reminds me of there's these, when you're looking at like really old photos, from your family, there are sites that you can put those in and they will like bring them to life. So it's like, here's your great great grandfather in the photo. And then you upload it to the site and then it animates it like in this way. It like brings this motion to it. And you're like, whoa. Very strange. AI is so crazy. What it's doing right now.
Yeah, so some of them were like, "Oh, okay, that's nice," but some of them are real like.
Well, and that's the thing. That's the thing is that they are taking from your library and using, like, to your point, like similar shots. Like I found a couple of these that were collecting photos of people in my family, like my mother-in-law and stuff like that. Like that was the theme of it, right? But there's little to no value being applied on it. Is this a good photo that you would want to include or not? Now you can go into these and edit and remove photos you think don't look good to say in the whole stream. Like you can edit that stream of photos and you can remove ones that you think aren't good, but it's taking its best guess. And that's the fault in the machine learning or the AI, and that there's the human, yes, this is a good photo, I like factor that they never can figure out.
Yeah, totally.
So.
Interesting stuff. Thanks for showing off your photo roll, Huyen.
Oh, there was some. I was like, wow, I know that this is a static photo. What is going on here? And some of them are weird. Though when it makes you smile by having your bottom teeth kind of morph into your top teeth.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just because my smile is weird, but I was like, whoo, it's kind of fun, but also kind of creepy.
Yeah.
But
Some of them work better than others, for sure.
That's for sure. All right. Well, that's cool. I do admit I like Google Photos has got all those little things buried in it and can surprise you. And I do like the curations they provide and the stuff they throw up there. Me and my wife are sending, stuff to each other all the time. And it is calling back the memories. Like today is the 4 years since I brought my son home from the hospital. And sure enough, Google Photos was there 4 years ago today, and it was like all the pictures, and it was like, oh yeah, that reminded me that happened.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Google's pretty smart, and Google Assistant is pretty smart. And good thing we've got our good buddy JR here to give us another awesome Android tip, a little bit of Android intelligence tip on Google Assistant tips. So JR, let's hear it from you.
Hey, so all the hype in the tech universe right now is firmly focused on the AI chatbot circus. For better or maybe for worse. But forget about Bing, the Bard bot, all that ballyhoo for just a second, because it's easy to overlook with all the noise going on in this area right now. But we've actually got a really good voice-controlled companion at our fingertips this very second. Talking, of course, about Google Assistant. And today I want to share a splendid little trick I stumbled onto for making it even easier to use. So you know how Assistant works, right? You say those two magic words, H-E-Y Google, and Assistant perks up and stands by to listen for your question or command. Well, that's all well and good, but it can be hard sometimes to know when Assistant actually hears you and is listening and ready to respond. You've been down that road before, right? Where you just keep saying the launch phrase over and over and over because you don't know if the thing's listening or not. It's even more of a challenge if you've got multiple Assistant devices around you. Maybe not just your phone, but also a speaker or smart display or something. Well, here's a little secret that'll help. We'll start with the speakers and displays, because that part's relatively easy. Just head into the Google Home app on your phone and make your way to the list of devices associated with your account. Find and tap the name of any display or speaker you see there, then tap the little gear-shaped settings icon in the upper right corner of the screen. Now, look in the menu called Accessibility, and hey, would you look at that? Right there, buried where most reasonably sane mortals would never look, are two switches that'll turn on a friendly little chime sound. That'll let you know every time that device starts and stops listening for your commands. Just flip those bad boys on, you'll never have to wonder if and when that specific device is listening and ready for you again. Now, on the phone front, this is where things start to get a little more tricky. This part is about as buried as can be, and odds are, I'd say, slim to none that any even remotely normal person would ever figure out how to enable this. Lucky for us, though, I am anything but normal. So here we go. First, head into your phone's system settings and open up the accessibility section. Look for an option there called Switch Access. Tap that, then tap the toggle next to Use Switch Access to turn it on. Confirm that's what you want to do, and if your phone asks what sort of switch you want to use or anything like that, just pick USB, make your way through the next couple questions. That part really doesn't matter, because you aren't actually going to use this. Having the system enabled is just a quirky, completely undocumented requirement to get our Assistant alert sounds to work on Android. All right, we're halfway there. Now take a quick break to consume a cracker and or cabbage, then say HEY Google Assistant Settings to pull up your phone's Google Assistant Settings section. There you'll want to tap See All Assistant Settings, then tap Accessibility. Now, see those toggles for mic open notification and mic close notification? Make sure they're both turned on, and that's it. The next time you call out for Assistant's attention, you'll hear a cheery little chime letting you know that your phone's listening, and you'll hear another sound that indicates when it stops. Pretty sensible, wouldn't you say? It's weird that you gotta jump through all those hoops to make it happen, but hey, now you know. And now you'll never have to wonder if Assistant is ready and listening for you again. Hey, remember, you can get tips like this directly in your inbox with my Android Intelligence newsletter. It gives you 3 useful new things to try every single Friday, straight from me to you. Sign up for free now at androidintel.net/twit, and I'll send a few special bonus tips your way too. That site again is androidintel.net/twit. That's all for today. We'll pick up next week with another neat new Assistant trick, one that might just come in handy the next time you've got all about Android on your mind. Back to you, gang.
I'm intrigued. You really know how to keep me watching and listening, especially when you put in old photos of me that I don't approve of, but they're on the internet, so what can I do? They're out there. Dang it. Huh? Oh, Burke says, hold on. I know what Burke's doing right now. Don't do it, Burke.
Yay.
Yes. There's University Jason. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
University Jason. That was a long time ago. Narrow glasses. That was my lion's mane hairdo era. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. Anyways, JR, thank you for the tip. It's funny that this is something that you do have to jump through hoops in order to do, because wasn't this just the default for the longest time. Like, that's just how Assistant worked for the longest time. When you'd fire off Assistant, you'd hear that doo-dink.
Right,
You know what I mean? And now, I guess you don't. But if you want,
what goes around comes around. People were annoyed by the doo-dink and turned it off, and who knows? Yeah.
And then they questioned whether Google was listening, and now you got to turn it on. So,
right. Well, according to Praveen, Google's not listening.
That's true. Yeah, you don't have anything to worry about. Google's not listening.
I like it. Spicy show.
Touche. Okay.
120,000 school girls.
Coming up next, we got some of your feedback. That's coming up. AAA at twit.tv, 347 show AAA. Those are the ways you contact us. And some of you did, like Jim, our first emailer, who wrote in to say, I just switched back to a Galaxy after being on Pixels the last few years and forgot how nice Samsung Internet is. Samsung Internet is the internet, is the browser on Samsung devices. You also have Chrome on there, but Samsung, of course, likes to have its own apps that are integrated with its ecosystem. That is Samsung Internet. He says, is there a way to open links from the search bar widget in Samsung Internet instead of Chrome? So, yes, there is. And this is, I think, part of Android by default at this point. I think it was added in maybe 2 or 3 years ago as an option in your settings. So probably every phone is going to get you there a little bit differently. But if you do a search, you'll probably be able to find it pretty easily based on what I tell you. But what you need to do is you need to set your default browser app in your settings, in your phone settings, to your browser app of choice. In this case, you would set that to Samsung Internet. I think by default on most Android phones, that's set to Chrome. Chrome, as you know, ships on all Android phones that are clear, that have a GMS contract with Google. So, but on Samsung phones, I can't.
Don't you have a Samsung phone?
I do, but I haven't set it up yet. But but I did just set it up from square one. Let's see here. So if but hold on, because I think Leo's SIM is here, and I don't want any text messages to pop through. This is Leo's phone, by the way. Okay, so if we go to settings, and then I'll read my little notes that I left here. And then we go to choose default apps. Oh, so we go to apps. So let's find apps. Apps, and then choose default apps. We'll go there. Whoops. Browser app right up at the top. You can see. So by default on this newly set up, oops, I hit the wrong thing. On this newly set up Galaxy S23 Ultra, the browser app that's set by default is in fact Chrome. So if I tap that, I get 2 options here. The one you wanted was Samsung Internet, and boom. Now if I do a search like Twit. I do a search.
Jason Photos.
No, I won't do that. I won't do that, Burke. And then we'll go here, and yes, I haven't logged into Samsung Internet. That's why it's giving me this. But if I was, it opened it in Samsung Internet. I know because it says update Samsung Internet, because apparently I need to update Samsung Internet. Anyways, that's how you do it. There's your answer, Jim. See, sometimes instead of looking this stuff on your own, you can just send us your question and we will answer it on the podcast, and you'll get your name read on the podcast as well. So there you go. I hope that's helpful, Jim. Thank you. Boom.
Well, boom. We got some more kind of questions about how to do things with Google Things from Aaron. And I have to admit, I am very sympathetic to Aaron's plight. Aaron writes to saying, I have been having a recurring issue with Google Assistant and wanted to see if you share my woes. Consistently over the past couple of months after prompting Assistant on my Galaxy S21 Ultra or various Google Homes in my house, there's a 10 to 20 second delay before the action is performed. This can be particularly annoying when trying to turn a light on or off. I have 250 plus what is that? Mbps internet service. I don't remember what I'm doing this right now.
Megabits per second.
Megabits per second. Thank you. And I'm so sorry. And my provider has been the same during this time. I use Google Wi-Fi for my mesh system. No assistant settings were knowingly changed. I wonder if any of you have experienced the same issue and have a fix. From Aaron. Aaron, I don't know. Okay, so I just want to, yes, we've been having this problem specifically with our Google Home Nest Hub Max. and to some degree with like the phones, but we've really been noticing it on our Nest Hub Max. I don't know if y'all have noticed this at all.
I haven't noticed as much of a slowdown, but wow, a 10 to 20 second delay before an action is performed does sound concerning. Yeah, and
it's infuriating.
Yeah, that's a really long time to wait. I mean, that makes the product unusable, in my opinion. Like, why would you continue to use a product that takes 20 seconds to answer your question? I don't know.
Oh yeah, I've said some bad words as a Google lady, so I don't have I don't have like an answer for the phone specifically, just because it hasn't been as a problem. But for the Nest Hub Max, I hate to say the best thing, we just factory reset the device, and it seems to have improved it. She seems to be answering a little bit quicker. And also just, we also were running into weird things like the Nest Hub Max would just become a blank white screen, like not even, we almost thought that she was busted. Yeah. And that I haven't noticed that since we factory reset, which was really annoying because then we had to obviously do all me and my husband and all the account setup. But I mean, if you're really desperate, try that with your Google Home. And I was, maybe there's a way to maybe just, I don't know, reset the data for, I don't know, one of the Google Assistant. I'm not sure what an analog would be for the phone Google Assistant, but
yeah, it
definitely has improved our quality of life with the Nest Hub Max. So that's my best volley at the problem, Aaron.
I put this in here not because I necessarily had any experience with this or knew the solution. Really, if others out there have experienced this, I'm just super curious to know if this is isolated or what, because I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what you do with that, but that's super annoying.
It was pretty bad. We almost threw out the Nest Hub Max. Legit. We thought it was ridiculous. Yeah.
So I wish we knew a fix, but we don't know a fix. Other than, could you turn it off and back on again?
We'll just factory reset it.
Yeah, factory reset.
That's a good answer for your phone.
Yeah, might as well. I mean, what do you got to lose? It's not like those devices don't really store much on the device, right?
I wouldn't think so.
I wouldn't think so either. Like, what would they put on there? Like, maybe the ones with the screen would maybe cache information there. But like just the straight up speakers, like they're not caching anything on the device. I mean, or if they are, what would it be? Isn't it just a straight up?
They have like a slight, they recognize your voice. That's about it. And
yeah, maybe that. Yeah, right. Yeah, kind of the data to recognize the voices possibly. But yeah, very, very puzzling, Aaron. If we get any feedback from others who have ideas or have experienced this, we'll definitely include it on next week's show. All right, Ron, you've got the honors.
I do. It is that time of week when we read an email that we feel for the week. It is the email of the week.
Why do we call it that?
I was trying to get Burke hovering over the button for as long as possible. All right. So our good friend of the show, Rick from Denver, Colorado. I didn't say it, Burke.
He's mad with power.
Our friend Rick from Denver, Colorado writes in, and this is the email of the week, ladies and gentlemen. He says, this question is basically for Ron, which is good because I'm reading it. He says, I know you have a passion for SMS apps and spent a lot of time curating them, so I wondered if you might have a suggestion for a reliable and reputable SMS app that can block text messages based on keyword.
Email of the week.
There you go.
Yeah.
Most SMS blockers seem to be all or nothing, i.e. they block all messages from a given number, but what I would like to do is block certain messages based on keywords, but allow all other messages. I have a situation where I receive a lot of text messages from work where many are for a different department, and I would like to block those messages while allowing messages meant for my department. Are there any apps you can recommend for this situation? Thanks for all your hard work on the show each week. And you're welcome, Rick. We do the show for you and only for you, and that's why you are the email of the week. So that said, you are right, Rick. I love SMS apps and the whole category. I have settled on Google Messages, which does not support this feature. It used to, but Google took it away for some reason. And there are lots of upset people in the product forums about that. But got a couple of options for you. Now, I haven't used them for this particular usage, so I'm not giving you any like my own personal experience because I haven't experimented with blocking by keyword as of yet. But I feel like some of these are reputable. Although if you read in the comments in the reviews of the apps, you might see your mileage may vary. But they, all of these have been around for a little while. The first one is Pulse, which you may remember was originally coded by Luke Klinker of Talon fame, and then he sold the app to a company.
Good thing he got out of the Twitter app business when he could get some money for his business.
Exactly. Well, he didn't get out of the Twitter app business early enough. He got out of the SMS app because he sold the SMS app.
That's right. That's right.
But if you take a look at Pulse, that is available in the Google Play Store, and it does allow. He sold it to a company called, what are they called? They're called, I saw it before, Maple Media. But Pulse allows you to block by keyword. And you can also do automated replies based on keywords. So it's very, very powerful. It's what you would expect from Luke Klinker, and it's great to see that Maple Media has continued to keep it going, continue to keep Pulse going. So Pulse SMS is a good option. Another one was an app that was originally called Anti-Nuisance, but has renamed to the SEO-friendly Call and SMS Blocker Blacklist app, also available in the Google Play Store. This one has over, by the way, Pulse had over 1 million downloads. This one has over 5 million downloads, right? So it's been around for a while. And basically this is just like a hyper blocking for SMS and calling, where you can block calls and numbers based off their blacklist database, but then you can also block SMS via keywords, which is the key thing you want there. And then the last one is Spam Blocker for Android, which has over 1 million downloads as well. And here it is. It allows you to block by SMS keyword. So nice. Text blocker, easily block text. Messages has the most powerful options to block based on mobile number, sender title, content keyword, email, text message, and wildcard rules. So you can block text from, you can combine the number plus keywords, things like that. So I would try these 3 apps as a starting point. I think they're all reputable. They've been around for a while. They have a good reputation. And hopefully that gets you what you need. So
nice. Congrats, Rick. It's got to feel good.
Good. What I like is that not only was it an email of the week that was complimentary, but it was also one that I could answer without even working very hard, which is ironic because he said, thanks for all your hard work on the show. And it was like, I was like, oh, I know the answer to this one because, wow, I know a category, which is cool. So,
there you go. Yeah. Right on. Well, it started with you, so I immediately put your initials on it. So I'm happy it worked out that way. Because
I am the email of the week. No, Rick is the email of the week. Wait a minute.
I'm the email of the week reader.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Rick, there you go. You can. I was going to say you could create a T-shirt that says I was the email of the week, but really we should be creating that T-shirt,
right? Yeah.
And giving it to you. And I'm sorry,
and giving it to JR to use on a tip, right? So,
Oh my God.
Someday, we keep saying we're going to make these T-shirts.
I'm going to mention that to Anthony. He's always asking me for T-shirt ideas.
Is he?
There it is. We got it.
I feel like I've given plenty of T-shirt ideas. They never get made.
Well, none of mine have been made either.
That's true. He's just looking for ideas.
Well, but let's look at the source there. So
you're not wrong.
Dear.
You're not wrong.
Make us feel good.
I will not argue with that.
All right. Well, we have reached the end of this episode. It is 7:02 current time, which is 10:02 Ron's time, which means he's got some trash cans to move out to the curb. So we will say goodbye at this point. Ron, what do you want to leave people with?
Yeah, so you can go follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at RonXO. But if you're looking for some more audio entertainment, head over to ifanboy.com, where we recently released our monthly Media Splode podcast, where we're talking about all things in the media. And that is very odd. That page should have content. But I gave Burke a link that it's loading the player, but anyway, I'll look at that later. But it's me and the guys talking about the Oscar nominated movies and ranking them by who we think will win. So there you go. And I also talk about the TV show Poker Face, which is fantastic.
I keep hearing that.
Oh,
I'll
so good.
watch it.
So good.
Yeah. When are the Oscars?
October 12th or 19th or something like that. I'm sorry, March, not October.
I was gonna say,
March 12th
late.
or 19th or something like that around
March
there.
19th. So. Okay. All right. Well, you got some time. Check it out. Thank you, Ron.
March 12th at 8:00. March 12th.
All right. And then, Win, what you got cooking? What's going on?
Just usual thing, day job as an Android developer. You can check out any Android development related content that I have on my website, randomlytyping.com, including Prezzo, notes, code, video, all that kind of good stuff. And you can find me on social medias of several types at Queen Code Monkey.
And you should. You can and you should find Win on social medias.
I'm hiding. I can find it. Sorry, that was not intentional. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Win. Thank you, JR, for your awesome Android intelligence tips each and every week. We appreciate you, except for that 1 week where you had strep throat. And like, I still don't forgive you, man. You should have worked through that stuff.
And that 1 week where you wore the same shirt.
Yeah. What about that? I don't remember that.
That wasn't. It was
okay. Yeah, that didn't happen. His shirt game is top of his field. So I'm not going to fault him on that. Not yet, anyways. Well, if he keeps pulling up photos of me like he did today, I might fault him a little bit. But anyways, thank you, Burke. Thank you, Victor. Everyone behind the scenes helping us do this show and bring it to you and make it look easy. And then I'll just take all the credit. But actually, they're doing all the really hard work. So thank you. You can find me on Tech News Weekly every Thursday, twit.tv/TNW with Micah Sargent, interviewing people. I'm sure this week we're going to have some sort of interview around the Section 230 stuff that's happening in the Supreme Court. We're going to get a lot of coverage of that on the network this week because it's a really big deal. So we'll be following that closely. And then, just producing a lot of the other shows on the network behind the scenes. So you'll see me popping into the Discord and chat and stuff when I'm doing that as well. Don't forget Club Twit. That rhymed. I wish I had another rhyme to tag onto it. There we go. Club Twit is our ad-free subscription tier. All of our shows with no ads, also an exclusive Twit Plus podcast feed, tons of extra content, including the 2.5-hour pre-show that we had today, and a members-only Discord, $7 a month, or you can pay for a full year, only $84 for the year. Twit.tv/clubtwit. Don't miss out. Help us, support us, and it's a lot of fun in the process, so we appreciate it. Thank you. As for this show, twit.tv/AAA is the show page on the web where you can go to find all the things you need to know, including a high-res image of all of us that you can put onto your desktop so you never forget all about Android. We will see you next Tuesday. Have a great week, everybody.
Hey, I know you're super busy, so I won't keep you long, but I wanted to tell you about a show here on the Twit network called Tech News Weekly. You are a busy person, and during your week, you may want to learn about all the tech news that's fit to, say, not print, here on Twit. It's Tech News Weekly. Me, Micah Sargent, my co-host, Jason Howell. We talk to and about the people making and breaking the tech news, and we love the opportunity to get to share those stories with you and let the people who wrote them or broke them share them as well. So I hope you check it out every Thursday right here on Twit.